Hey guys, it's Sai, and welcome to ACEcast Nation, where you can find podcasts, interviews, and content on a whole variety of subjects, including football, mental health, films, wrestling, serial killers, conspiracy theories, music, and more. We upload 3 shows a week, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. We're constantly adding new series and guests of all types, including podcasters, doctors, ex-professional footballers, authors, journalists, and others. The best way to support us and keep us bringing you cool shows and great guests is by subscribing on YouTube, leaving comments, and sharing our videos and posts. Today's show is on football, and I'm thrilled and honoured to have an ex-Premier League footballer join me. So please welcome ex-Cardiff City, ex-Stoke, ex-Wigan, ex-Sunderland, Carlisle, and former Republic of Ireland international, Mr. Graham Kavanagh. Thanks for joining me, Graham.
No problem at all, Paul.
Yeah, so before we get into the inevitable Cardiff City talk and discuss, your career and that goal versus Leeds, that game, gonna have to talk about that. I just wanted to chat a bit about sort of how you came about, how you got into football professionally, and obviously moved over from Ireland. Who did you support when you were growing up?
Liverpool fan. I've actually got a cup of tea here. Liverpool.
Oh no! Quick, I'm gonna have to end this now. Jeez. Oh.
Yeah, Liverpool fan.
So, so you've had a good couple of weeks then with your holiday.
Yeah,
and
enjoyed it.
Jesus.
To be fair, when I was a kid, my dad, my uncle, and all his mates used to go to Liverpool, and I was only probably 3, 4, 5, whatever it was. So they used to get me, jerseys, scarves, caps, towels, all sorts of stuff, mugs. So it was inevitable I was going to be a Liverpool fan, and my uncle was a big Graham Souness fan, and my dad was a big Dalglish fan. So Dalglish became my hero, and then as I sort of grew up and started becoming a midfield player, obviously you look back in Souness and realise how great he was. But I think Liverpool at that stage were just, well, they were incredibly fortunate with I don't mean unfortunate, fortunate is the wrong word, but I think the fans were blessed to see such an amazing team, and probably thought it was going to happen all the time. And as we've seen, it's been 29 years since they won the league, but they've had a great bit of success obviously last week, but they've been on tough times obviously. But yeah, for me coming over, it was always a dream probably from the age of about 6 or 7. I used to have all the posters on the wall, and I used to envisage playing for Liverpool, and just match of the day on a Saturday night, and just staying up and watching it and thinking, well, someday I'm gonna play on there. But I'm sure every kid thinks that, but I don't know what it was. I definitely had an inner belief. I don't know. And to be honest, I wasn't even probably good enough up to the age of probably about 10. I was always better than the kids around me, but when I played at the elite level, I wasn't good enough up until that age. And then I went to a team, home farm, under 12s, under 13s, and we had an amazing. I mean, everybody in the team went away on trials, but about 7 or 8 of them went away. And the 2 that actually made it was myself and Gary Kelly, played with Leeds, and we were probably the 2 players with the least amount of ability, really. So it just shows you perseverance, drive, desire, determination, obviously with talent as well. But it makes up for an awful lot of things.
Yeah, and I think I spoke a bit when I spoke to Willie Boland about like the academy system, and I think it also shows that what you were saying there is like that just because a kid's not good enough maybe at 10, 11, that doesn't mean that they won't develop by the time they're 16, 17 into a player capable of playing professionally. Because you see some boys who are in the academy system and they're best in their team from a young age, sort of 7, 6, 7, and they can go all the way, and then up to about sort of 14, and then everyone else catches up with them a bit with size or skill. And I think sometimes the clubs write off kids a bit too early, maybe. Because,
I mean, but my impression or interpretation, if you like, of the academy system now, back when I played, it was a much better system. It was a much better pathway, if you like. We basically came from the youth team into essentially the reserves, and the reserves were first team players who weren't playing, whether they needed games, whether they had been dropped from the first team, whether they're coming back from injuries. Generally, when the senior players played, there was a nastiness about them, there was an aggression about them. And even when the game would start, a lot of them didn't really want to probably play. They felt above the reserves. But if you tried to take the mickey at all, or you tried to outwit them or be cleverer than them, you very quickly found that the professional nature of any professional footballer, they invariably wanted to try and do you. They wanted to leave a bit on you. And it was such a learning curve. And it was a brilliant grounding because, I mean, just an example, I remember coming away. I was only, whatever it was, 16. And I went really well in the youth team at the very start. And I was put into the reserves, I think it was at 16. Just showing me 17 birdie. And with a player called John Walker. And John Walker was in the Scabia Victory, played for Ipswich, played at Middlesbrough when I was there, and played for Liverpool. Very, very, played for Scotland. He was a great player, really, to be honest. I didn't realise how good he was until I actually played with him. But we actually played anyway one day, and he said to me from a corner, he says, right, listen, stand on my toes and just go literally attack the near post. And first corner comes in, I go attack the near post, he comes in behind me, header, bang, goal. 2 minutes later, he says, right, stand on my toes, spin around the back, go back post, I'm going to go near post, bang, ball in the box and header, goal. He's got a hat-trick in the game, right? And I remember thinking to myself, going, Jesus Christ, is that how good he actually is? And it was his awareness and his understanding of the game and the movement of other players and his experience. And talking about the academy level now, you have the pathway where they develop all through the ages to get to 16, 17, 18 and they step into the youth team environment. And then they step up to this bridging gap, which is under 23 football, which it drives me mad, to be honest. Because I'm a scout now for Bristol City. And so I watch first team games, but I go to an awful lot of 23 football. And I could basically do the same report on every game. Centre half split, fullbacks go high, midfield player comes and gets it, they play one in the hole, there's one up top, 2 wide men roll inside, and you look at them going, Jesus Christ, every team plays the same. And nobody tackles each other. There's no physicality. And I think we're doing a disservice to the kids because I think when they actually step into that first team training session, or they go and step into a first team game, if they're lucky enough to make the jump, they're just not ready. You know, they're learning on the job, which we all were, don't get me wrong. But I was learning on the job at 17, 18, they're learning on the job at 22, 23. And if they haven't got games by that time, they're generally not going to make it as a player, because even as an example, when I was manager of Cardiff United, and from all the managers that I speak to, the very first thing you ask for, so as an example, you get released from Liverpool, and let's say you go to Carlisle, and all the Liverpool players, the Man United players, or whoever, they all come to the lower clubs and think, oh, this is going to be easy. It's far from easy. It's an absolute culture shock to them. The game is different, the environment is different, the facilities are different, and the mentality is different. And they go from an easy out environment where they're pushed technically, but physically they're not really pushed. And then they come into an environment where it's not about technique, it's about physicality, and it's about mindset, and they can't handle it. And a lot of them drop by the wayside. And the first thing, as I said, that any manager asks is how many games has he played? How many first team games has he played? And kids today don't understand that. And I think we're doing it. I think we need to revamp the whole. If I'm being honest, we need to revamp the whole system, because I think under 23 football is just, clubs are keeping players on way too long, and the kids then get released at 23. They've not played a first team game, and they're now entering the world of, well, the real world, having been a footballer for 6 or 7 years, gone through the academy system as well, have everything sort of done for them, and they've got no skill set. So for me, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's a big difference, isn't it, between like under 23 football and then Championship, League One, League Two, because like you say, it's a whole different game down there. Any team can beat any team on any day, and it's, like you say, very, very physical. And if you've not been in that environment going up through the age groups, it's a big shock, isn't it? And if these boys then haven't got the mentality to adapt or the capability to adapt their sort of the physical side of the game, no matter how talented are they, they can drop out. So yeah,
but a lot of the time, it's not really always the kids' fault, because into under 23 football, you very rarely hear them talking about second balls and competing for the breakdown and the transition of when the ball changes hands, whether it be a bad pass or whether it be somebody wins a tackle. And the game and the tempo of the game is way slower. So when they do actually step into that environment, it's not something that they're used to. Their skill set isn't like that. But the reality is that's what the game is. And the quicker you want to adapt and learn, listen, if there's any young kids listening to this, especially if you're a young pro, my advice would be, listen, try and forget about the under 23s, get yourself out, try and get first team games on loan, gain experience, come back. You'll have a much tougher mindset, you'll have a much stronger understanding of how and what the game is all about. And it'll only do you the world of good in the club that you're at, you know.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at players like Harry Kane, who went out on, rather than staying in the Spurs academy system, he went out on loan several times to sort of different clubs around the country, and he came back 10 times the player that he was from playing first team football. And I don't think on loan, I don't think he scored hundreds and hundreds of goals. You know, I think he scored a few, but he's, nothing compared to what he's doing now for the Tottenham first team. But that experience of playing, proper professional football, I think did him the world of good. And there's a few, even players like I don't know that I particularly rate him, but Jesse Lingard did the same, went out on loan, and then came back in his early 20s to Man United and has done all right. And he's played, but would those players have progressed the way they have if they just sat in the under 23s, not experiencing, the real aspects of the intensity of first team football?
No, well, the answer is 1,000,000% no, because even the consequence of losing a first team game for the players who are actually currently at that club is potentially life changing, because if they lose enough of the games, they're going to be out of the league. Therefore, they're not going to have to be a professional football anymore. Then they've got to go and get a job. So they're in a dressing room. These young kids come in from Tottenham, Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, wherever it might be, and they're just, they have to come to terms with it pretty quickly. And when I was assistant manager at Carlisle, when Harry Kane was at Leyton Orient, and I'm going to be totally honest with you, there's no way in the world would I ever said he was going to captain England. But you could see he had a toughness about him and a mindset that he wanted to develop and learn. And fair play to him, he's been out, he's doing amazingly well, and you've got to tip your hat to him and say, listen, well done, and you deserve everything you get.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because I think so often clubs want to keep these players in the under 23s so that they can call on them if they get a load of injuries. But from a development point of view, it seems like they'd be better going to get proper first team football. So how did so you obviously were brought up in Ireland, you live in Ireland. How did it come about that you sort of moved over here and sort of got your first chance?
I had a couple of trials before I came away, and then I played in what's called the Milk Cup up in Northern Ireland, and our group had Middlesbrough, Liverpool, a couple of local teams. Anyway, we won the group. We beat Liverpool 5-0. We drew up Middlesbrough, and we beat the other two local teams. We got to the semi-final, and we actually got beaten on penalties by Spurs, who had Nicky Barmby and Darren Casca. Did a good side. Stuart Nethercott. There was quite a few players who actually went on to play first team football. But Ron Bond, the youth development officer at Middlesbrough, he had seen me, and after we played Middlesbrough, he said, "Look, I want you to come over and trial." So, long and short of the base, I went back to Ireland, went back to Dublin, went home, had a couple of weeks, went back pre-season with Middlesbrough, done I think it was about 8 days, and just done really well in the first game, scored 2. We scored in the second game, but we didn't win, but I played quite well. And straight away they said, "Look, we want to sign you." But I went back to Ireland then and played for Ireland actually against Northern Ireland, and I scored in the game. We won 1-0, and as I scored, the lad slid in, done my ankle, I rolled my ankle and done all the ligaments. So in that time, in that window, if you like, everybody wanted to sign me. It was like nobody was afraid. Everybody was afraid rather to take the chance, take the first step. But once Middlesbrough declared, right, that's it, I'm going to sign you. All the clubs come in and said, look, we want you on trial, but I wasn't physically capable because I was injured. So we'd agreed to sign on my 17th birthday, which was the 2nd of December. So Middlesbrough said, look, come over early. I think it was about the 8th of October. They said, come over about the 8th of October. We'll give you treatment for 8 weeks. And we're actually playing Liverpool in the Youth Cup on the 8th of December. So I thought, Jesus, to play at Anfield would be unbelievable, you know what I mean? So I wanted to get myself fit for that. But on the day I actually signed, so I signed the forms that would take me up to my 17th birthday. I get a phone call to say, listen, Liverpool have come in. They're going to double your wages, and they're going to give you the same length of contract, which was a 3-year deal. But at that time, Liverpool had just won the league, and they had Ronnie Whelan, John Barnes, Stephen McMahon. A lad who I played in the team at home farm, a fella called Mark Kenny. He was ahead of me, or in my head, he was ahead of me. I thought he was a better player than me at the time. And I was always conscious of thinking, well, I want to have a career. Am I really going to be good enough for Liverpool? Yes, it's my dream to play for Liverpool, but I don't want to sort of ruin the chances I may have. And I just got the impression with Middlesbrough that because the club was where it was at that stage, they were giving a lot of young kids chances. The youth system was quite strong, and that I just said, right, I'm going to stick with my decision. Leeds came in also, and they more or less said the same, although they weren't offering me as much money. But I had my mind made up, and I said, right, that's it, I'm going to go to Middlesbrough. And in fairness, it was never about money. It was all about just the opportunity. And I mean, if they'd have said to me, look, we'll give you a year and no money, I'd have done it. So yeah, that was it. And then the rest is history, to say. But I mean, coming to England was tough, you know. Like, it's not. I think everyone goes, yeah, it's yeah, well, you made it, worked out right. But Jesus, for the first year, I was living in digs. There was no mobile phones. There was no iPads. There was none of that. You know what I mean? I didn't even have a video in my room, video recorder. It was literally 4 stations at the time. Sundays were the longest day of the week. Sundays were horrible. You used to try and sleep as much as you could. And then I used to make a phone call home on a Sunday night at 9 o'clock. And my mum and dad used to ring me on a Wednesday night. We used to speak twice a week. So you're trying to catch everything into a 15-minute conversation. So it was difficult. How I managed to do it, I've no idea, to be honest, because I obviously was mentally strong. I was way mentally stronger than I thought I was. But yeah, it was tough. But that's the same for most Irish kids, because they come away and they don't have any alternative. There's no professional football in Ireland that is going to get you to the Premier League. So you know, you've got to take the gamble and back yourself. And unfortunately for me, it worked out.
Yeah, it's a big. I think it must have been a big thing for you. Like, age 17 is, 17's no age, is it? To come to a different country, away from your family, and obviously, as well as that sort of aspect of it, you've also got the pressure of, you want to be a professional footballer. So you're thinking, right, I'm coming over here to do a job and, push your career on. And I mean, I got to say, like, as a 17-year-old, having that offer from Liverpool, that must have been a huge pull for you, being a Liverpool fan, to get that offer as you're going to come across from Ireland. So, fair play to you to be age 17 and still make the decision of, for sort of playing time, if you like, or that aspect of it. That's a big decision.
To be honest, I mean, I wasn't. When I look back now, it's a very mature decision I made. But I wasn't at that time. At 16, when I first made the decision, I wasn't mature. Like, I knew I wasn't mature. But when it came to football, I knew what my capabilities were at that age. And although I had a lot of talent, I think I probably doubted myself more than what I should have done. But I do think it was the right decision I made. And I think, would clubs of a bigger ilk have been as patient with me? Probably not. Because when I came away for the first 3 months, I played really well. And then the next 3 months, I couldn't hear a barn or a banjo. My head had gone. I couldn't wait to get back in the summer. I was kept thinking about getting home, seeing my parents, seeing my girlfriend at the time, and seeing all my mates and all that carry on. It was just, yeah, it was tough. But as I say, you come out the other side of it, and then once I was home for sort of 3 weeks, I was thinking, I'm itching now to get back. I'm itching to get fit again, and I want to break into the first team. And to be honest, I ended up getting into the first team the following season. We were in the Premier League, and we played Sheffield Wednesday. We played Notts Forest actually away, and then I played in that game. And then we played Sheffield Wednesday at home in my debut, and I actually nearly scored with a volley. Chris Woods was in goal. They had a very good side at the time, and that was sort of my breakthrough. I thought, you know what, I know I can do this. I know I'm good enough. And I think along the way that you then start adding bits to your game, and well, what am I not so good at? Right, I need to learn to track runners. I need to win more second balls. And I actually thought the game at the time was all about pinging the ball 60 yards, getting a shot off, let somebody else defend for me. I don't need to do it. I'm too good. And all. I didn't think in my own head I'm too good, but I think arrogantly probably did think at times that that's somebody else's job. But then you quickly learn, because you play with the likes of Brian Robson and Nigel Pearson and some of the senior big characters that I played with. I think it sort of ended up forming a real sort of strong personalities. They sort of form, well, they don't form who you are, but you take bits of them. And if you're not wise enough to see their strengths and what they're good at, just like even an example, Brian Robson, probably the best drinker I've ever seen in my life, right? And his attitude to it was, listen, if you want to drink, have a drink, do whatever you want, I'm not bothered. But you better be able to train the next day. And if you can't train, don't drink. And I've come in and you could smell drink off him, and we would run, and he would be at the front of the running, and he would train like an absolute beast. And listen, I'm not condoning drinking and training. I'm not saying that, but it was a different era then. And the point I'm trying to make here is his mentality, his will to win, his determination, his drive. And he was 36 at the time, and that really had an effect on me. Thinking, you know, the excuses you can make for yourself, and you can give yourself the easy way out. Robbo was never prepared to do that, and he didn't expect any of his players to. And ultimately, in the end, his attitude to the group was, listen, I want you essentially to, listen, you back me, I'll back you, but I want you to run through a brick wall for me, because I'll do the same for you. And I think them type of characters have a big bearing on, you know, your mindset going forward. And it was a really good learning curve for me.
It's an interesting point you made there about like when you play with players throughout your career, you take a bit of them with you, particularly players, you know, of the standard and ilk of Brian Robson, because, like, I don't know if you'd agree, but my opinion of sort of your career is that every sort of step, I thought you got better and better. The way you went through. Obviously, you had a spell with Middlesbrough. Then you made 200 appearances for Stoke, which is when I was first aware of you. Then when you were playing for Stoke, you obviously had a pretty successful time there. You had 200 appearances. When you look back at your time at Stoke, what are some of the sort of memories and moments that stand out for you?
Well, it was sort of clear at Middlesbrough I wasn't playing as often as I'd like. We had a very good side, but I was at the 21. We just signed Janino, Emerson Ravanelli, and I knew if I'm going to prolong my career, although it's great being part of a football club that's really on the up. Everybody in the country was talking about the North East, was talking about Sunderland, Newcastle and Middlesbrough. And we were signing some superstars, as I say, Ravanelli, Janino, Emerson, but we with Branco, there was quite a few players that were linked to us, and as went on to be obviously Mason, Gaza, Townsend, Woodgate, Southgate. Like, the club did have a bigger picture, if you like. And I just thought, right, I need to go and play first team football. So Lou McCarthy, and he was manager of Stoke, took me to Stoke on loan. Done really well. He signed me, and again, I was brilliant probably for about 3 months, and then I was shit. Then I just didn't play well for a period of time, about 6 weeks. And the fans sort of had a go at me, and then I ended up getting back in the team and scored the last goal at the Victoria ground, and we moved then to the Britannia Stadium, and I managed to score the first goal at the new stadium. The problem with all that was what I didn't realise was when the club was building the new stadium, it had ran out of money, and there was no money to invest in the team. So we were getting free transfers. Who, when you're looking at them come to the door, the players just weren't good enough, and it was very frustrating. So I think I had a period of 5 years, and I think we had about 7 or 8 managers. And listen, I'm not blaming the managers because I think it's unfortunate because I've been a manager myself, but the recruitment wasn't great at the club. The financial situation wasn't great, and I think the club was had to bind itself time just to sort of get to that next stage where it either got promoted and was then able to bring in the Premier League money. But it sort of backfired and we got relegated, and I have to say it was tough times. But I think at Middlesbrough I sort of learned to be a professional. At Stoke I learned to be a first-team player, like a regular first-team player, what it meant, how to prepare, how to train, how to recover. So they were like vital sort of parts to me developing as an experienced pro. And I think that just culminated me then, having the opportunity to come to Cardiff. And to be honest, Cardiff wasn't really an appealing option to me at the time, if I'm being honest, because it was a club where it looked like, it seemed to everybody at Stoke that it was a backward step. But I'd met Sam Aman and Corky on the Thursday after the Wednesday night game. We played on the Wednesday against Walsall in the playoffs, and I scored one of my best goals ever. And I got on the bus, was sick as a pig. We hadn't got promoted, we lost out in the playoffs. And I said, look, Sam Man's going to meet you tomorrow morning. This is my agent. Sam Man's going to meet you tomorrow, and he wants to have a conversation with you. And I'd had some great times at Stoke. We won the auto windscreen. I scored a goal at Wembley, got man of the match. Scored a lot of goals, scored 50 or 40 odd goals, 45 goals, I think it was in 200 appearances. So I was regularly scoring. There was quite a few teams. Newcastle bid 2.5 million from me, they didn't accept it. And Fulham had bid 1.75 million and they didn't accept it. So there's a few things that were happening along the way that I thought I should really be playing a higher level. But whatever it was with Sam, when I met him, it was he had this aura and he had this belief, and he made you feel like you were 10 foot tall. And he also sold the dream of the football club and where the club was going to progress to, who they were going to sign, the money that was going to be spent, and the new stadium. As it turned out, a lot of it was bullshit, but he was a good salesman. Because I thought the stadium was going to be literally 2 years down the line.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and that was frustrating. But in saying that, it was most definitely the most enjoyable time in my career, moving to Cardiff. My wife, my son was born in Wales. My daughter had been born in Stoke, but was now going to school in Rada and stuff. And it was, it was just four and a half unbelievable years, really,
Yeah, I remember that, when you signed, you coming from a higher level, you were really, really highly rated, and it was a big fee for a club in our position at that point. But so you've joined Cardiff, and like I say, it was a wild and exciting time under Sam Man. Did you feel the pressure because it was quite a large fee at the time for a club in Cardiff's position?
No, not really. No, I didn't even think of it as. I know £1 million quid's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but in today's money, it's not really big. I know this was whatever it was, 17, 18. No, it was 18 years ago now. And it was the highest the club had paid at the time, and it was probably one of the highest in the division and all that. But we signed Ravanelli at Middlesbrough for 7.5 million. He was on 42 grand a week. I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, that's pressure. I knew I was capable at 26, 27 coming into the league to get goals. Sam Tom was going to be captain. That was a little bit awkward coming into the dressing room to be captain straight away after the team had just been promoted. Leggy was captain. I think a few of the players were like, "Come on, then prove yourself." Why did the club think you're the best man, so to speak, for the job? And then I remember even the very first day I walked into the club, I remember coming in thinking the dressing room was about 35 players. The dressing room was ridiculous the amount of players we had. And couldn't even find a place to sit. So I put my bag down and went around, and I thought, right, I need to make a statement there. So I literally walked around and shook everyone's hand, looked everyone in the eye. How you doing? Graham Kavanagh. Nice to meet you. Blah, blah, blah. Every single player. And I think a lot of them were a bit like, fuck's this fella, you know what I mean? Who does he think he is? But it wasn't about the arrogance of it. It was more about I wanted to show them that I was approachable, but I meant business. I was here to, if you like me, great. If you don't like me, I'm actually not bothered, because I'm going to be successful here, and I want everyone to be sort of jailed, and I want us all to have the one goal, which is we're going to be successful, and that was sort of, I suppose, taking on the role of being the captain, and but in fairness, all the lads were brilliant with me. You know, probably took about, I'd say about 2 months, done pre-season, went to Ireland, had a good time in Ireland. We played quite a few games, scored a few, and I think the lads sort of got to know how I was and how I trained and how I played and what my mindset was and what my character was, and it just seemed to fit and gel, and it was great, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I say, it was an exciting time, and I remember you signing. Obviously, with Salmon, there's been so many rumours over the years about, you know, Wimbledon and Cardiff with sort of pre-match rituals, eating strange cuisines, or whether it's walking around the pitch during the matches. You know, there's been all sorts of stories. Is there any stories you can share about Salmon and the time with Cardiff?
Well, he actually said to me, if I didn't, what was it? I think it was, he gave me a tag of, I think it was 10 goals. And he said, if I didn't score 10 goals, I would have had to eat sheep's testicles. And he actually did write that into the contract. And I remember reading, is he actually taking the mickey here or what? But it was just being, you know, he made you inclusive. He made the whole, it was sort of a bit of a siege mentality. And I mean, he used to come down to the training ground, and he'd come down in the suit, and he'd have a wad load of money, and he'd say, right lads, I'll race you. So we'd go and stand the halfway line, we'd be on the bottom line, and he'd say, right, if you beat me to the top line, I'll give you 50 quid. He couldn't run, Sam. Like, so the lads that sprint, get to the top line, we'd all take 50 quid off him, and then the lads would pick him up and throw him in the water up in Lantriston, where we used to train, and he used to love it. Sam used to get into his car soaking wet, and he just loved being part of the boys and the crack, but that was how he was, and he wanted to portray that image to the world. You know, we're united, and that's why he used to walk around the ground. And I always remember the Leeds game when, I mean, that was, I think I read something recently. Rio Ferdinand said the most intimidating hostile atmosphere you've ever played in. He said it must have been Galatasaray, and he goes, you can handle any atmosphere when you've played in Indian Park. And it was like, Jesus Christ, it was intimidating that night. But I don't know, I mean, even now, just the hairs in the back of the neck stand up. That was just incredible, all around incredible night, you know. The atmosphere, the stadium, the noise. I actually remember the following day I recorded it, and Andy Gray actually says, I actually can't hear myself speak, and he was right above the Bob Bank at the time. So yes, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a special day. Obviously, like, they were top of the Premier League. We weren't, but it was hostile. It was loud. It was jam packed. They had people, you know, they had players like Ferdinand, but they had players like Viduka and, you know, Alan Smith. But obviously, you scored a free kick in the game, which was, once we scored that equaliser through the free kick, it just felt like something was going to happen, or every time we got anywhere near their goal, and because they were an unbelievable team, but it was just one of those funny days in the FA Cup, I suppose.
Well, I remember I said to when the draw was made and we pulled Leeds at home, I used to travel in with Neil Alexander every day, and we used to take it turns in the car, and we get in the car one morning, and I said, "You seen the draw?" And he went, "Yeah, geez, I can't believe we got them at home, amazing." And I said, "I'm telling you, I'm going to score." And he went, "Shut up." I said, "I'm telling you, I'm going to score." And in fairness, every day for about, I don't know, well, I used to practice free kicks anyway, but every day I remember thinking, right, second man on the wall, hitting the second man's head, over his head, right in the stanchion. And that was all I kept thinking. I remember getting the free kick thinking, I know where this is going top corner. Like. And so it's a mad feeling to know exactly what you're going to do, and then bang, do it. But in the environment that we're in, because everybody was thinking, we're not scoring against Leeds. We have no right to score against Leeds, you know what I mean? But it was funny, before the game, I went there to see Gary Kelly and Ian Hart on the pitch, and we were just having a quick conversation, and they'd flown down And Harty says, yeah, well, it's like against you lot, like, because you'd be the lower league team, you'll be running around. And I remember thinking, going, you lot? So I went in and I said it to the lads, and Alan Cork went, right, tell you what, lads, we're changing the system. And you're going to go and play in the right. Gavin Gordon was playing up top, but I don't know if he went to a 5 or how. No, he played. That's what he done. He played. Paul Brayson played, and he put him in the hole, I think. And every time we got the ball, we just went, right, where's Ernie? Ernie, don't think about anything, just go and run Hardy. And it was one of them games where it just all fell together. You know what I mean? It was a perfect storm. But listen, it wasn't a luck. We 100% deserved to win the game. And I thought actually don't get me wrong, they had a few chances but yeah, I thought we played it exceptionally well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was special. When I was speaking to Andy Campbell, and we were talking about the goal from the playoff final, which took us up, and he said after he scored the goal in extra time, he doesn't remember, anything after that, and he said he's watched it back on TV hundreds of times, but he's just cannot remember a second of it after the adrenaline sort of dump of scoring the winner. What was that feeling like when Scott Young scores, the winner late on in the game, and place erupts?
Well, I remember taking the corner and I whipped the corner in. We always used to try and hit Leo because Leo was a nuisance in the box, obviously big, physical, and he'd go and attack the ball. And then I think Leo might have got a flick on it, but anyway, it drops. It's David Batty comes back and Youngie hits it. I remember going wild at the time, and Youngie ran for the corner. I remember sprinting after him, and as I sprinted, I thought, shit, we've still got about 6 minutes left or 5 minutes left, including injury time. And I thought, right, let's just go and see the game out. But that's when you're trying to manage the game in your head because of the experience. But there'll be a lot of young lads, Gabs, Ernie, quite a few of them who hadn't sort of played at any level where they understood how to win the game. It was all just about, well, if we score, we'll win. But they didn't understand. And you're trying to, in the moment, say, right, let's calm everything down. But the stadium is erupting and it's going berserk. And it was mad. And then getting back in the dressing room after, the dressing room was wild. Sam Man was in, and that's actually when he swore on Sky. Don't know if you remember.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So it was brilliant.
Yes, it was. Still, even just talking about it now and listen, I can hear it in your voice talking about it. It's just like the excitement of it, and just it's like one of those things where you remember it and the hairs on the back of your neck stand up and you get goosebumps just reliving those moments and those goals. Special game. And the FA Cup's funny, it just every year pulls up these results which have got no business happening. There's no rhyme, no reason to it, because it can't just be luck, but it happens every single year without fail. One big Premier League team will go out to a lower league team every time.
Yeah, well, I think it's a lot of it's mindset as well, isn't it? Because I think the lower league team is thinking it's their big day and it's their opportunity to show the world how good they can be. And I do think there's an element of the bigger team thinking, shit, we don't need this game. They're going to kick the shit out of us. They're going to be physical with us. They're going to be in our face. They're going to have a tempo and an energy. If we don't score early, the game could be long. And I think when they scored in the game, I think they thought, right, that's us. We've probably won now. Whereas we kept going, and then obviously the sending off Alan Smith with Leggy, and that had a sort of big impact on how the game went. But it was definitely a day I'll never forget.
Yeah, absolutely. So just as we sort of start to finish off, what's the craziest thing that you've ever witnessed or experienced within football?
Within football, shit, these type of questions put me in the spot like this. Now this question will drive me mad all night, and I'll end up thinking about something tomorrow and I go, shit, I should have said that. Don't know really. Obviously, I've played in games where there's been broken legs and stuff like that, which I know it's the norm of football, but whenever you see it, it's not very nice, and especially with teammates if you played with. But scandals. To be honest, I'd be lying to you if I said. I've never really been involved or around any. I mean, obviously, the World Cup with Roy Keane, which I wasn't involved in, but I heard all the stories about it. That was quite shocking at the time, considering, how often you get a chance to go to the World Cup and you don't, for whatever reason, you fall out the manager, you don't go. But, I mean, Roy obviously had his reasons and all that, but there's been nothing really that shocks me really anymore. I think football is one of them now that it used to be where players move and you think, geez, I've never seen that happen. And I remember years and years ago when Andy Cole moved to Man United, you're thinking, oh God, that's a shock. But then Alan Shearer moved to Newcastle and you're thinking 15 million quid. You look at the price tags now of players moving and none of it really shocks you, you know what I mean? I know social media now is so accessible and literally news is instant. I think it shocks me the way players can be. I think as I'm getting older, I think I look back on my career and I look back on how I was grateful to have it and I was probably I cherished it. I look at some players now and I think there's an arrogance, probably because of money and probably because of society, but they become very guarded about the world they live in and they're not accessible anymore. And I think that's something that bothers me, in terms of how do we get that back? How do we still have a game of the people that everyone can identify and relate to and look up to a footballer and still have respect and everything else? And I think that's something that I'd like to probably see more of. But then how do you give a young kid 20 years of age 50 grand a week and not expect them to change? You know what I mean? It's
definitely
a weird one, yeah. So it's probably a poor answer to your question, but I can't really think of anything at the minute.
No, and you're right though. You give these young guys who've got so much money. They got more money than they'll ever spend. Of course, they're gonna change the way they act, they behave, and obviously when you were at Cardiff, there was a bit, a special bond between the players and the club and the fans, and I think that sometimes is lost in modern football. The fans are still there, they're still passionate, but it's not that, it was quite it felt like a personal relationship between the fans and the players at that point in time.
Yeah, I think, well, even back then, I mean, you could go into the bar and, you go into your local pub and have a drink. I think players nowadays are very, very sceptical of mobile phones and, just being in and around fans where, listen, there's always a rival fan, there's always a fan who doesn't like you for whatever reason. He might even be one of the fans, one of the home team fans, and he's trying to wind you up or annoy you or whatever just to get a reaction. And all it takes is somebody with a phone.
Yeah.
To have access to your situation, and then that gets blown out of proportion, and you might have said something or done something that you regret, and you're thinking, shit, I've overreacted, or maybe I haven't overreacted, maybe I've actually felt in the moment that was deserved, but ultimately that they're seen as the bad guys, so they take themselves out of that environment, and that's why I think an awful lot of them socialise together at home, and you don't see it, and I think that's why Christmas parties and all that now are just off limits. There's no Christmas parties. And if there is, they do it in private clubs that nobody can see them, So it's a catch-22 for them,
Yeah, I can fully understand it because people just want to sell their story, don't they? At the end of the day, they get the video and then they sell it to the Sun or the Mirror or whoever. And like you say, it's easier for those players to avoid it by just doing it within their own home or have a few beers at home or in a club or whatever. Sadly, it's the world that we live in, unfortunately, isn't it? Thank you so much for joining me, Graham. That 45 minutes has flown by, mate. I do really appreciate you finding the time to come and speak to me. Where can the people find you on Twitter? What's your Twitter handle? I can't remember what it was.
Oh Jesus, no clue.
It's Graham _ Kavanagh. So you can find Graham there on social media. You can find us. Guys, you can find us on Twitter at ACEcast_nation and youtube.com/AcePodcastNation. You can find all our shows on there or the audio versions at iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, podcast.co, all that type of stuff. Please give the video a nice thumbs up, drop us a comment and a subscribe. Tell all of your friends, and we'll see you next time. Look out for our quickfire questions with Cav, which will drop sometime over the next week as well. Thanks again, Graham. I really, really appreciate it.
No problem at all. Enjoyed it.
And nice one, people. Thanks for watching.